This is Land of Havilah, Amos 4. In the 7 verses leading up to this, Yahweh said the king of Israel was oppressive, plundered the people, hoarded loot, and lounged on beds with silk cushions. He abused his kingdom, robbed from the people. Yahweh will send an adversary who will overrun the northern kingdom, pull down the fortifications, and destroy the king's winter and summer palaces. It'll be as if a lion preyed on a sheep, and the shepherd rescued from the lion's mouth nothing but a couple of legs or a piece of an ear. Now Yahweh turns his attention to the royal women and calls them cows. We presume because of how well fed they are. This is in a nation that, further along in the chapter, has experienced some food shortages. Verse 1. Listen to this word, you cows of Bashan, who are on the mountain of Samaria, who oppress the poor, who crush the needy, who tell their husbands, bring us drinks. The Lord Yahweh has sworn by his holiness that, behold, the day shall come on you that they will take you away with hooks, and the last of you with fish hooks. You'll go out at the breaks in the wall, everyone straight before her, and you will cast yourselves into Harmon, says Yahweh. Comment in verses 1 to 3, Yahweh addresses the royal women of the northern kingdom. Listen to this word, he tells them. In verse 1, Yahweh calls them cows of Bashan. Bashan was known for its livestock, particularly its cattle. Psalm 22:12 and Ezekiel 39:18. In verse 1, the royal women who remind Yahweh of the cows of Bashan are on the mountain of Samaria. The mountain of Samaria is the hill on which the city of Samaria was built. It was the home of the summer palace, 1 Kings 16, verse 24, and chapter 20, verse 43. The royal women living on that mountain remind Yahweh of cows feeding on a hill. In verse 1, the royal women are like their husbands. They crush the needy, are spoiled, and are accustomed to luxury. They tell their husbands, bring us drinks. What a spectacle it will be in verse 2 when the foreign invaders put hooks in these women and lead them away captive. It'll be the same as leading a cow by a ring in the nose, except a cow would accept it as a matter of fact, and these women will be in a state of shock and despair. Yahweh has sworn by his holiness that this very thing, that they'll go out with hooks, that this thing will happen. In verse 3, they'll go out by the breaks in the wall, which means through holes where the city wall has been breached. It'll all happen just this way. The captured royal women cast themselves into Harmon. There are several theories what Harmon is, NET translation notes, so we'll leave it as something that's unsure. Now Yahweh will tell the Israelites in a sarcastic tone to keep practicing their false religion. They continually make pilgrimages to their high places at Bethel and Gilgal. Go ahead, keep it up, Yahweh says. Verse 4. Go to Bethel and sin, to Gilgal and sin more. Bring your sacrifices every morning, your tithes every 3 days. Offer a sacrifice of thanksgiving of that which is leavened, and proclaim free will offerings and brag about them, for this pleases you, you children of Israel, says the Lord Yahweh. Comment in verses 4 and 5, their worship insults Yahweh. They're very religious, but not according to his instruction. They've completely cast off the law of Moses, and much of their worship is even to foreign gods, 2 Kings 17, verses 7 to 23. Yahweh says, keep it up, enjoy it while you can, because soon you'll be taken captive to foreign lands. Coming up, Yahweh says he sent many hardships to Israel, but to no avail. They haven't repented. When he says cleanness of teeth, he means famine, verse 6. I have also given you cleanness of teeth in all your cities, and lack of bread in every town, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I also have withheld the rain from you when there were yet 3 months to the harvest, and I caused it to rain on one city, and caused it not to rain on another city. One place was rained on, and the piece where it didn't rain withered. So 2 or 3 cities staggered to one city to drink water, and were not satisfied, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I struck you with blight and mildew many times in your gardens and your vineyards, and your fig trees and your olive trees have the swarming locust devoured, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I sent plagues among you like I did Egypt. I have slain your young men with the sword, and have carried away your horses, and I filled your nostrils with the stench of your camp, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. I have overthrown some of you as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and you were like a burning stick plucked out of the fire, yet you haven't returned to me, says Yahweh. Therefore thus I will do to you, Israel. Because I will do this to you, prepare to meet your God, Israel. For behold, he who forms the mountains and creates the wind, and declares to a man what is his thought, who makes the morning darkness and treads on the high places of the earth, Yahweh, the God of armies, is his name. Comment in verse 4, Yahweh sent lack of bread in all the cities and towns, yet the people didn't return to him. In verse 7, he withheld rain starting 3 months before the harvest. Therefore, we presume there was no harvest. It rained on some cities, but not on others, and in some pieces, meaning some pieces of land, but not on others. The rain was sparse and spotty. In verse 8, only 1 out of 3 or 4 cities had drinking water. People were staggering to the one city with water, but in all their staggering, they didn't stagger to Yahweh. In verse 9, many times Yahweh struck their crops with mildew, blight, and locust, but they didn't return to him. In verse 10, he sent plagues reminiscent of the ones in Egypt. He killed their young men in war. He carried away their horses. When they were in their military camps, the stench of the dead bodies wafting from the battlefield assaulted their nostrils, yet they haven't returned. In verse 11, some individuals or some locations have been overthrown as badly as Sodom and Gomorrah, but Yahweh pulled them from the fire. They were as damaged as a charred stick, yet they haven't returned to him. In verse 12, therefore thus I will do to you, meaning all the things I've said in this prophecy, thus I will do. Prepare to meet your God. You'll meet me in terms of what I do to you, and you'll meet me personally. In verse 13, it is I, Yahweh, who says all this. I'm the one who forms the mountains, creates the wind, declares to a man what his thoughts are, turns the light of morning to darkness, and walks on the mountains. Yahweh, the God of armies, is his name. Also translated, the God of hosts is his name. Amos 5 is next.